Yeah, so hi folks, I'm Michael, working on DDMAP package 1. The focus of that is on structure and stability protection, the amorphous materials. So I'm not going to give a workflow as such, but kind of present an overview of some of the work we've done towards getting to an automated sample prep and analysis workflow for amorphous solids. I'll start by giving an overview of DDMAP as a whole. There's three key parts to that. More detail about what package 1 specifically, and then some of the work we've done in automated data analysis, so specifically image analysis and extraction of crystal growth rates from polarised light images. So you'll probably hear over the next couple of days, there's a lot of different projects in CMAC feeding into different CMC toolboxes. DDMAP lies within CCS, so it's kind of the opposite of crystallization, I guess, but we're extracting a lot of similar information, so form control, growth rates, induction times, etc. So that's where that sits. But why amorphous materials? So a lot of people here, crystallization folks, like a good crystal. They're pure, easy to characterise, more stable physically and chemically, whereas the amorphous materials are higher energy, so you do get the benefit of enhanced solubility, but that same higher energy gives a thermodynamic driving force towards a lower energy form, i.e. a crystal. Characterisation is difficult. Bragg's law tends to fail when you don't have long-range order, so you need to look at different ways of looking at these materials structurally, etc. And you know, how do you handle these materials, affect moisture, temperature, etc. There's a lot of concerns. So DDMAP is a 3-year project spanning across Strathclyde, Ghent and Copenhagen universities, and it seeks to develop, underpin and understand the amorphous materials from formation, manufacture through to performance. So as I say, there's 3 parts. Work package 1, which is structure and stability protection. Work package 2, which is looking at hot metal extrusion and transformations during processing, looking at first time manufacturing. And work package 3 performs these materials in vitro and generating models to describe those processes. And there are aligned students working in different areas like co-precipitation, spray drying, etc., and thermal degradation, etc., and hot metal extrusion. But into work package 1, specifically focusing on formation, stability and structure. So we want to basically enable predictive model development for, you know, you've got a new chemical entity, what's the best polymer to formulate it with, and what's your desired drug loading to ensure stability and performance. And we look to do that through high throughput, small scale stability experiments, but also, you know, different molecular descriptors, for example, or easily measurable thermodynamic and kinetic parameters such as glass transition temperatures, heats of fusion, etc. And all that data getting fed into the Amorphous Pharmaceuticals database that we're building out, which is to be a repository for data related to amorphous materials to enable predictive model development. So alongside the stability protection, we're also looking at, you know, manufacturing, processing, and kind of aside from all that, but still related, is the structural characterization of amorphous materials, which we'll touch on all these kind of individually after. So small scale physical stability screening. So we look to, for a given API system, do this with less than 100 mg of material. So it's small scale solvent-based screening, so mixing different stock solutions together, different compositions, drying them off and monitoring under, right now it's accelerated stability conditions, so 40 to 75, but we're going to expand that across the whole ICH conditions just to kind of understand behaviour as a function of storage condition. And right now we're monitoring with polarised light, and as a manual procedure for the sample prep, but we're looking to integrate this within an automated platform. So we've got a ChemSpeed sample prep robot being delivered next week now. And that will be churning through a lot of samples, automating the full sample prep and drying, and we'll get some robotic integration for transfer to sample storage. And what we'll talk about in more detail is the monitoring and automated image analysis to detect onset of crystallization and related information. All that data going to the database and using multi-objective optimization for next sample selection, and just run that in an automated loop. And I'll just touch on this very lightly. Structure analysis, amorphous solids, so advanced characterization methods, like pair distribution function, small angle scattering, and molecular dynamic simulations to develop understanding of structure and stability in these materials across length scales, so understanding the role of polymer, for example, which we use to stabilize these materials, and replicate prep method in the simulations to understand the impact on the resulting structure and stability, and working with the CSD and using the tools in the CSD to kind of pull out some information from those simulations. And all that, as I say, goes into the APDB, which we're hoping to make an open source repository for this kind of data. But this has been developed in conjunction with CCS, like I said. So right now we're just mapping out all the data sources, the instruments, data types that we're dealing with and handling in SQL, but that'll be looking to convert that mapping ontology onto it and get a kind of graph type database to enable a bit more flexibility in querying, etc., and less structured data sets. So into the image analysis. So right now we've got something like this, a slide with a sample ID and crystallization happening as a function of time and storage condition. So we can monitor these manually, the throughput we're dealing with just now, but in the coming months, as I say, that will be integrated into our automated workflow. So we need basically a more objective way to analyse these versus my eye just staring at it, and also something that can deal with the throughput. So using the SciPy libraries and PIL and Python, put together some image analysis scripts to do this for us. So we've got an array of samples like I've shown here, and the script will locate the sample ID and segment the sample location. And once it's done that, after grayscaling and some smoothing of the image, it will track the size of the crystalline clusters as a function of time. And we'll get these, a range of information from it. So the size of the clusters, the number of clusters if you're interested in the nucleation, and the mean pixel intensity, which we can use for detecting the onset of crystallization. Similarly, this monitors this not just as a whole, but for each cluster that's identified. So, you can use that to infer if there's something that's crystalline at time zero as well. But we're also interested in extracting growth rates. Like I said, we're using multi-objective optimization for sample selection. So if you can feed in growth rates, and of course we're trying to extrapolate down to a composition where there's a stable, or at least a kinetically stable ASD, we can maybe get there a little bit quicker. So we've got the modified Avrami equation, or a modified Avrami equation, which is useful for these types of materials, well, useful in general, really. Accounts for the change in nucleation rate as a function of time and amorphous fraction. So the equation here, you've got crystalline fraction as a function of basically the recrystallization rate constant, and the Avrami exponent, which accounts for dimensionality of crystal growth and nucleation, which can take on a value between 2 and 4. That's an empirical fit. So whatever gives us the best fit, essentially, is what we're going with. Excuse me. Lost my place there. That's okay. In this case, we're using if I jump back for a second, we've got the cluster size there as a kind of representation of the amorphous fraction, or the crystalline fraction in this case, which we're fitting to. You can see here's an example from some internal work. It's found to produce better fits to the data than the sort of classical Avrami methods, which have a tendency to overestimate phase transformation rates. It's been used based on TOF SIMS imaging of extrudates or hot metal extruded products to understand phase separation and crystallization on the surface. So once we've got the image analysis, which extracts the sizes and clusters, etc., the data is then passed on to the fitting script, which iterates to a range of the Avrami exponents and starting points for the crystallization growth rate. And it's, as I say, it's determined by the best fit to the data. And it's only accepted because this is automated. You can't look at everything by eye and say yeah or nay. So if the R-squared value is over a certain value, then we'll write it to CSV, and then that's recorded quite consistently. It's all accessible for us and can go into the database as that's developed. And so that's just some of the pre-work involved in the automated workflow that we're trying to set up. So as I say, the chem speed that I touched on earlier, dispensing out samples, which are then putting into a storage oven, monitoring with time, fitting, extracting growth rates from that, and then getting passed on to get phase ID from XRPV. Again, is once it's crystallised, amorphous materials are not necessarily interested in that, but as tying in with CCS and some of the other programmes in CMAC before being fed into our optimisation algorithm to go back in a constant loop. So we're estimating quite a lot of data points being churned through. I've said here roughly 20,000 per year and less than 100 meg of API. But yeah, it's quite decent. We are hoping to get through quite a large number of API and polymer systems. Right now we're focused on extrusion grade polymers, but looking to expand that just with all projects that's coming through the PhD students into CMAC that are working in non-thermal methods for production of amorphous materials. But yeah, small scale, high throughput, large data sets to try and inform some of these models. So just to summarise some of that, working on automated image analysis, we've developed a protocol for detecting onset of crystallisation and growth rates. Growth rates being determined through a fit to a modified Rami model with all that data written in accessible format in CSV, which will be fed into the database. Ongoing, the chemistry's been delivered next week, so that'll be getting integrated into an automated platform, which will hopefully speed up our sample throughput analysis, and obviously the APDB, the construction of that's ongoing. So a lot of people to acknowledge here, the team at Strathclyde DDMAP, but also the guys we're working with at Ghent and Copenhagen universities. If you have any questions, happy to answer, or else come over to poster 5 and you can have a blather.
We could treble of 0 questions on behalf of that.
Yes.
So we do have a question. And we've got a microphone.
Hi there, good talk. Kevin Gerard from Pfizer. So a quick question on the last slide where you sort of had that response surface diagram. What I guess I'm wondering is,
Okay.
It would seem like part of the whole loop that you have to do is also sort of generating knowledge as to which combinations of APIs and polymers and things, sort of lead to lower levels of crystallinity versus higher ones, presumably on stability. So I'm wondering, where does that sort of fit in, and what are your plans for doing that?
Sorry, you kind of lost me there.
Yeah, sorry. So one of the problems we face all the time when we make these amorphous dispersions and various things is that they become crystalline over time, and we have this onus on us by the agencies to prove that they're not going to be. And we also have a problem on the front end, sort of screening which polymers and APIs to even put into these programs, because we want to make sure that they're not going to go crystalline somewhere in their lifetime.
Yep.
And so you have this unique opportunity with the Amorphous Data Factory to kind of figure out all this kinetics. It would be neat if you could link that kinetics back to some aspect of the polymer or some aspect of the API that causes it to
so
not become crystalline.
Aside from the data we're collecting, the stability, we've got standard molecular descriptors that can hopefully inform this, and we are spanning that wider data set, that many different materials that we can hopefully get to understand. But we have found that in general there are some polymers, for example, that just like to behave better. We're interested in the thermodynamics or solubility of the API in the polymer, but even kinetically, ones that are just more viscous, like HPMC grades versus a PVP, for example, which do tend to behave better. But we want to, ultimately that's what we're looking to do, is tie in all that, the kinetic, thermodynamic, molecular descriptors, physical properties, tie into that to try and develop that kind of understanding. Kind of hard to answer off the cuff right now.
Other questions?